Let's now give an opportunity to Dr. Reinhardt and Ms. Dookie. They are going to take us through their presentation, their paper, which is on preparing learners for STEMI competitions. Over to you, Dr. Reinhardt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Tanja Reinhardt. People call me Dr. T more affectionately. And let me just hide my video panel. Okay, and hide my floating menu. Okay, right. So today we're going to talk about, and in true collaboration fashion, together I'm going to present with Nalini, preparing learners for STEMI competitions, a case study of a collaborative learning approach, and I hand over to Nalini. Whoops.
Hi, thanks, Tanya. Good afternoon, everyone. The ESKIM Expo for Young Scientists was initiated in 1980 with the intention to promote STEM research. Since then, it has grown into a well-established science foundation that operates nationally. So our small staff, together with hundreds of volunteers, judges, mentors, anyone with a passion for STEMI, are recruited from all sectors of the community. Annually, we host district fairs, 35 regional science fairs, and 1 international science fair. As you can see there, we collaborate with various government departments, other organizations, whoever has an interest in advancing STEMI amongst the youth, and STEC being one such collaborator. Our young scientists have the opportunity to participate internationally, win prizes, medals, and bursaries. Through the many training programs and the various levels of participation, we focused on advancing 21st century skills, such as critical thinking, problem solving, scientific literacy and communication, as well as developing sound research skills in learners from as little as grade 4 up to grade 12. Many of our learners have furthered their careers in the fields of their research projects to become medical doctors, engineers, scientists, researchers, and innovators in the STEM field. The 13 Expo categories are internationally benchmarked, and they have a direct link to STEMI careers, thus allowing us to contribute to the STEMI pipeline in the country. Tanya, hand over to you.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Science Centre. So STEC KZN was established in 2008, basically as a brainchild or merger child of the University of Durban-Westville and the University of Natal, which then formed the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and it was a designated community outreach facility. So our aim is to promote science, communication, and engagement and public awareness of STEMI. And we do this through in-house displays, and at the bottom left, you can see our exciting periodic table where we basically place real elements or have real elements on display. We do outreach. So with our Science for You outreach initiative, we basically go out to schools and provide CAPS related curriculums. And since the lockdown, we in fact do online workshops. We are also home of the Geology Education Museum, the only geology museum in KwaZulu-Natal. So how did everything start? In 2020 or before or pre-COVID, so basically we had the two organizations, the ESKIM Expo for Young Scientists and STEC KZN. ESKIM Expo usually provided theoretical resources and input into things like learner-teacher communication. So what happened was that learner and teachers basically require specific skill sets, and Derek quite nicely said, you know, skills is actually what we need. So they provide background knowledge, ideas for scientific engineering programs, and this is quite challenging often for learners and teachers. So on the one hand, ESKIM Expo provided the theoretical resources and input, and on the other hand, there was a science center who did all sorts of hands-on workshops for kids. So during COVID, and so what happened was that all this information now, the theoretical resources and input, ESKIM Expo provided online. So they did some training videos and so on. But what they actually saw is there was a need for more like a hands-on approach to basically link the theoretical values into something hands-on real life. And this is where we basically came in with our expertise on online workshops. So we decided now to collaborate. So basically put all the building blocks together, the theoretical resources and input and the hands-on online workshops for kids, and try to provide an engaging online activity that transfers now skill, knowledge, and project ideas. So basically provide the seed so that learners can take or teachers can take and go from there. So how did the implementation happen? So this is a kind of model that we came up with. So we started with brainstorming workshop ideas. So what would happen was that the provincial coordinators of ESKIM Expo would come in and gave us some learning objectives in the framework for workshops. So for example, skills, specific skill sets for ESKIM projects. The Science Center, basically me, would then go in and said, okay, I've got some experiment ideas that fit into, you know, your learning objectives. And during the brainstorming session, we would basically throw everything together and combine the learning objectives with the experiments. I would then go back to the drawing board and would then come up with, you know, a workshop layout. So again, we would meet, I would present the workshop to the provincial coordinators, and they would provide feedback if it works, if it didn't work, so, and reworked and work from there. The next phase was basically advertising the workshop. And of course, with ESKIM Expo and being you know, distributed over all the provinces, we were able to advertise it countrywide via social media and email. And then from the Science Center side, we have our local network of, you know, participants that we address, local schools that we basically try to engage as well. And of course, the university community. The online workshop, ESKIM would provide the Zoom platform, and we deliberately used Zoom, and we didn't use a webinar layout. We used basically like a meeting layout so that the kids could interact. They would also facilitate the registration and provide technical service as host and co-presenting. So this was quite important, that you had somebody separate from the person running the workshop to basically co-host. The Science Center would then present the workshop, answer questions, also try to engage with the learners during the workshop. Back to you, Nalini.
Thanks, Tanja. These practical we call them weekly Wednesday workshops, were run with Dr. T for an hour or so, depending on the level of engagement from participants. As you can see from the topics displayed on the screen there, the topics that were covered were both science and engineering aspects that are linked to the CAPS curriculum. And you might have attended the session with Tanja earlier on, where Tanja and Chris presenting. But Tanja will take you through now and give you a bit of a more explanation of the workshops.
Okay, of course, we wanted to teach skills, and we had hard skills and soft skills. So for example, we had a workshop on self-inflating balloon, where the topic was a chemical reaction, and the learners learned how to predict how much the balloon will inflate. So what were the hard skills that you could get out of it? Of course, how to conduct a chemical reaction experiment. And here at the bottom left, you see one of our slides. How to physically measure the circumference of a balloon using string and ruler, because this is something that they might not have come across. How do you basically measure it physically? So some of the skills that they can use maybe in one of their own experiments. And then show them how to use the experimental data to calculate, for example, a volume, or how to draw a graph using all this information. We also then went a little bit further and showed them how can you establish the buildup of pressure. So we did this in two ways. One was basically fairly low key. So how can you measure it? So you just take a bottle, you do your chemical experiment, and you put a cork on top and see what's happening. The cork will basically fly out because the pressure inside builds up. We also showed them a more elaborate way of doing things, a more technical way. So, for example, measuring CO2 here on the right-hand side, you can see measuring CO2 using a CO2 sensor. So all these ones basically provided them also with some form of literacy skills. So information literacy, where we provided some chemical background, technology literacy skills, as you can see, using sensors and so on. Also creativity and critical thinking was encouraged. What other ways can we use to measure, for example, the circumference of a balloon? We also provided some background information to show them the relevance. So here in this case, it was examples of self-inflating devices in use. Then for the engineering project, for example, a balloon-powered car, and for those who attended the morning session, I'm not too sure if you can actually see this. There's my balloon-powered car. And so they built one. They designed wheels in a follow-up workshop. They designed wheels that basically would run on different kind of surfaces. So, and basically running through the engineering process and so on. And I'm going to go back, and Nalini tells you actually what worked in our kind of partnership. Nalini.
Yes, thanks, Tanja. Okay, so what worked well was having a national reach and access through our 9 provincial coordinators and, of course, the various media platforms. The practical nature of the workshops enabled learners to perform their activities at home, even in their kitchen, as Tanja showed you, the kitchen chemistry. And the list of materials needed was circulated prior to the sessions, so that it enabled learners to join the demonstrations at home and to find these materials easily around the house, creating a good opportunity to engage with parents and even younger siblings, further spreading reach and access of STEMI. Many learners would set up the Zoom sessions at school, enabling learners to join in at school. Participants could unmute and ask questions directly to Dr. T or post them in the chat, and then Dr. T would respond immediately, offering guidance or correcting the activity, and this created a real face-to-face demonstration experience. The polls that we used during the sessions, they increased interactivity and to a certain extent helped us to assess the understanding of the participants. Additional hosts helped a lot with crowd management, and the online platform that we used, it facilitated a national footprint. So Tanja, can you take us through some of the challenges that we faced?
Yes, and challenges there were. So, I mean, this is something that this is not only a part of Zoom registration, that the number of registrations is not equal to the number of participants. This is, of course, a bit difficult if you want to report back numbers to basically your sponsors or your stakeholders. And we've done this data costs, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. We all know that data is not readily available for everybody. Also connectivity issues for presenters and participants, and we've seen this unfortunately also during the conference. No network connection, no electricity due to load shedding. So we're just some of the problems that we were facing. Sometimes, when you're doing real hands-on workshops, you can always engage the participants. But, if you are just, sitting on the other side, the participants actually preferred observer status and not active participation, which is quite challenging. Finding a suitable time slot. Is it going to be a morning session? Is it going to be an afternoon session? So we set it on a fairly late afternoon session from 4 to 5, which kind of worked well. And also, the participants varied from session to session. So it wasn't really a consistent string of people. We had a small group of, a small core of learners and other participants joining us, but it was there was a huge fluctuation. Noise and screen drawings are some of the challenges that you basically have. And of course, sitting in front of your desktop and to present to yourself is for the presenter itself a challenge. And Nalini, can you just draw our come to our conclusion?
Just to conclude. Just to conclude, okay, very quickly, what we've learned that despite having limited control over the impact of these sessions on participants, we were able to reach and support learners' participation in Expo, in the Expo competition, and engage them in other STEMI activities. This type of collaboration has far-reaching value, not only for Expo and STEC, but for other organizations. You know, some might argue that online activities like this further disadvantage participants from the poorer communities. However, what we found, we were able to reach audiences all across the country, in all corners of the country, including disadvantaged participants who we may not have reached if our only option was to travel there. For that matter, we can reach participants and presenters. We can connect with them worldwide. Engage with anyone in a STEMI space. The opportunity for virtual science clubs to be set up in schools, community centers, even libraries can be created by organizations with shared interests. This collaboration has demonstrated that there is a tremendous potential for advancing reach and access in STEMI competitions when like-minded organizations work hand in hand. Together, we can do more. I can leave you with this thought.
And this is,
thanks, Tanja.
Again, you know, basically joint forces, and these ones are just our websites and our email addresses for those who are interested to contact us. If you want to find out more, if you're interested, you know, in one of our joint workshops, please contact us, and we're quite happy to assist. Thank you so much, guys, for paying attention and hopefully not falling asleep.
Thank you so much.